Let's open up the OG mailbag. Alongside Joe Giglio, I'm Joe Ovies. We are inside at Uford Studios, and it's time to answer your questions, all part of OG Fans. If you're not a member of OG Fans, head on over to ogtrianglemedia.com today for as little as $13 a month. You'll get the full mailbag episode. You'll get newsletters, additional podcasts like OG on Business, where Dimitri and I discussed whether or not Stephen A. Smith is truly running for president in 2028. True story. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. I mean, I think it's actually kind of funny, and we explore that idea on OG on Business. So again, that's all at ogtrianglemedia.com. And of course, the mailbag is brought to you by our friends at the Butcher's Market. Check them out online at thebutchersmarkets.com. It is going to thaw out here soon. You probably want to start using that grill. Head over to the Butcher's Market. They got great stuff. They got everything you need for grilling purposes. You guys start thinking about hockey tailgates as we get into the playoff mode here pretty soon. Got to think about what you're going to be doing out in that Lenovo Center parking lot. Our friends at the Butcher's Market can help you out. We'll get to hockey in here in a second because there's some reaction to the Four Nations tournament. But you seem to have had some sort of epiphany when you walked into the studio today.
Hernando Jose Ovies.
Yeah.
I have never been as disappointed in you as I am right now.
Oh, I used my full name and everything.
Yeah.
Okay. What did I do?
I parked in
what didn't I do?
I parked in the hot zone today. And I parked.
Yeah, that reminds me. I gotta.
And so when you park in the hot zone,
I know where this is going.
When you park in the hot zone, if you don't know, if you're not familiar with downtown, you have to pause and make sure that you pay because
they'll get you
when you park in that 2930 block of
which I'm doing right now.
You're almost guaranteed a parking ticket if you don't pay for your 2 hours. Okay?
Easily.
That's a free tip for everyone out there.
Yeah.
So as I got to the sidewalk and paused, I saw a black Honda with snow on the roof of the car. And I thought to myself, that can't possibly be Joe Ovies's Honda, because Joe Ovies wouldn't be so inconsiderate as to not clean the top of his car, especially after spending time in the greater Minneapolis, St. Paul area and seeing how considerate everyone is there with the way that they treat their cars and making sure that their snow doesn't blow off their car into everyone else's path and line of sight. And what do I see but your stickers on the back of the car? And sure enough, it is your car.
Yeah, it's mine.
I'm embarrassed for you.
Yeah.
That you can't clean off your own car. That's bad.
That's bad. You should have seen how lazy I was to get here in the first place. I only cleaned off like half my windshield.
I noticed. Yes.
Yeah. And I figured I'll let the sun do the rest of it. You know? Just let the sun do the rest. It's nature's ice scraper.
Do you know what I actually used today for my ice scraper?
I actually used, I couldn't find my ice scraper, which is part of the reason why I was like, well, F it. I'm just going downtown. I used my carpool tag.
Carpool tags are very good.
Scrape off.
Credit cards can be very good.
Lenovo Center parking pass.
Parking pass.
Sure. That's a thick plastic right there.
Do you know what I used this morning?
No.
My son Jackson, who's never played hockey but has street hockey sticks.
Yeah.
I used a hockey stick with that plastic blade, and it had a long reach on it.
Yeah.
Actually perfect. I threw it in the back of the car just in case I need to use it for future snow events.
I'll own it, man. I'll own it.
Embarrassing.
I know.
Embarrassing.
This is just laziness, really. It's kind of like Kelly.
No, it's being inconsiderate.
See, okay, I will push back in that there's inconsiderate and then there's lazy. And I'm lazy.
It can be both, Joe. This is not a binary equation.
I don't know. I mean, like Kelly's been on me about getting a colonoscopy. Right.
Okay.
And
you should have had that a long time ago.
I should have done it last year when he turned 45.
Oh, I thought it was 40.
No, if you don't have any sort of history, it's now 45.
Okay.
Or I could just poop in a box. I know that's available as well. I mean, there's a thing. It's like Cologuard or whatever it's called, right?
Yeah.
You literally just, I haven't seen that SNL spoof yet. But
you haven't?
Poop in a box. I have not seen that yet. Anyway, so I need to do this. And it's not because like I'm afraid of it or whatever. I'm just lazy. I just like, I got to do that. I just forget about it. And then we go. But I do need to do that. That's on my list of things to do once the basketball and the hockey seasons are over. That's on my list of things to do.
While I would say to you, yes, your health does affect your wife and your kids.
Yes.
Driving affects everyone. And
yeah, I know.
That's not being lazy. It's being lazy. Inconsiderate.
This is lazy. Straight up laziness, man. Straight up laziness. All right. You want to open up some mailbag questions?
Please.
Let's do it.
Here's the mail that never fails. Makes me want to wag my tail when it comes to what a whale.
This is more of a collective thing because we've gotten some responses. I've seen it on social media. You and I have talked about this.
Okay, before you go.
Yeah.
What roadcaster were you using yesterday?
I wasn't using any roadcaster.
Oh, you weren't?
No. That was just straight Rode USB microphone, Razer camera,
because
and my laptop.
The jingles were popping yesterday.
Really?
Yeah, they were good. They sounded good.
I don't know why that would be different than,
or maybe it's the quality. Remember, I use my AirPods at home.
That's what it was. You were using your AirPods. That's why.
Okay.
I don't see why they would be any different because the jingles were getting played by StreamYard one way or the other.
Yard. Okay.
Yeah. So yeah. Four Nations tournament. Canada wins in overtime. Pretty exciting stuff, right? But it happened again, and look, I get it. I'm in like my little Canes bubble, right? So when Seth Jarvis, and people were getting legitimately mad about Seth Jarvis and scratches and whether or not he was actually getting, he's playing or whatnot. So I was happy to see him, do the thing. But the Jaccob Slavin conversation has been elevated again. And we're once again doing this with Jaccob Slavin, which I think is freaking hilarious. It happens in the playoffs, and it clearly happened in the Four Nations tournament where people watch Jaccob Slavin and they go, damn, he's really good. And it makes me wonder, why do we do this every time with Jaccob Slavin? Is it because of his demeanor? Is it the position? Is it because he plays for the Carolina Hurricanes? What exactly is it that's preventing people from just kind of like not having this moment where they go, hey, this guy's one of like the best defenders in the game. Dang, he's probably on his way to the Hall of Fame because he's so freaking good at what he does. Damn, did you see him sell his body out? Did you see him rob the pot? Wow. So what am I like? Why is it that we do this with Jaccob Slavin?
It's all the above.
Okay.
Right. He's a quiet guy. He's doesn't score a lot of points.
No.
That's not, he's not flashy. One of the great things I saw in all of the adulation for him last night was I do wish they had an award in the NHL for the best defensive defenseman. Mm-hmm. Because we have a tendency to be like, well, so-and-so had 60 power play points. They must be the Norris Trophy winner instead of, who's the actual best defenseman in the NHL.
We've seen this in the NFL, specifically with MVP. It's like, hey, maybe we should just have a defensive player of the year.
Yeah.
Let's reward that. I see where you're going with that.
So that was one thing I thought. But the truth of the matter is he just doesn't make mistakes.
Yeah.
Okay. And it takes a moment like overtime where you're going, now Connor McDavid, we all agree is the best player in the world. Right. We all agree this. Right. Like it's indisputable. Now, why was Connor McDavid not as effective as the best player in the world during the game? Because Mike Sullivan was able to match up Jaccob Slavin with Connor McDavid. Much like Rod Brind'Amour during the playoffs is able to get Jaccob Slavin against another team's top line. Mm-hmm. And we always talk about this during the playoffs, and what the importance of being at home, having that last shift, being able to match players up. Well, in overtime, Connor McDavid gets on the ice, Jaccob Slavin's not on the ice, and all of a sudden you go, oh yeah. And that's the beauty of Jaccob Slavin, in that he truly is your left guard Hall of Famer. He's Dermontti Dawson, right? He's steady as they come. He's as good as he is at his position. And you never notice him because he never gets penalized. He's never called for holding. Literally, how many times has he been penalized? Hockey in their macho culture, they have one trophy that's named with the word lady.
Yeah, I know.
And it's a little bit of a scarlet letter when you win it, even though they're giving it to him on a regular basis because, or nominating him on a regular basis because of the way that he plays. Yeah. That's the award they should change the name to and give to the best defensive defenseman.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
To be perfectly honest with you, but he's an offensive lineman who you don't appreciate unless you watch on a regular basis. And when you do, even when you do,
you still don't appreciate it.
I will always give Trip Tracy credit for trying to promote Jaccob Slavin in a way for the normal person to understand.
Yeah.
The one thing Trip loves to say about Slavin is he's got great stick. He gives great stick. And you're like looking at him like, what does that even mean?
What does that mean, man?
And then all of a sudden, you see a play where McKinnon's got a wide open shot. And then all of a sudden, here comes a stick out of nowhere.
Yep.
And you're like, who was that? Slavin.
There you go.
Great stick.
Great stick on Jaccob Slavin. All right. So the Four Nations ended up being, I think it was going to be a success regardless of any sort of current political climate, because you're going to get best on best. You're going to get country pride regardless of what's going on. The fact that it got a little absurd for last night, fine. It's a little extra sauce on top of everything that was going to be there. So, but if you strip that out of it, to me, it makes it really difficult for the NHL to go back to a regular rotation of all-star games. And given what we've seen out of Gary Bettman and seeing what the calendar looks like going forward, I think they're going to strike a balance of giving the players what they actually like and giving the audience and TV what they like. So they're going to have the All-Star game next year. The players do like the All-Star game. They do like the break. It is a nice exhibition and something to do in a city, right? We experienced it here in 2011. But then they got the Olympics in 2026. And I think that's probably the best way to go about it, in that the NHL is going to have these every 2-year type things, whether it's the Olympics or World Cup, which is important to do a World Cup because the NHL makes money off of that. And regardless of what the teams might think about injuries, and there were some injuries, it wasn't just the McAvoy situation, which was the ugly situation. Ultimately, the governors like money. And this is something that will continue to make money for them. And that's why we're going to continue to see this. Does the Four Nations format continue? You know, given again, back to political ramifications, are we going to get Russia the next go round? Because what's going on in Ukraine? I don't know. Do they blow it up to 6? You know, that way they can include other I don't know. But clearly this format works. They're going to go back to the well. They'll just be curious how they do it.
Let's start with the hockey part specifically.
Yeah.
International players have not participated in the Olympics since 2014. Mm-hmm. Think about the influx of talent since 2014 in the NHL.
Just think of U.S. talent.
And that's
because the Kachucks really got out. We're talking about Slavin, but you know who the biggest winners were? The Kachucks.
So okay. Let's go a couple different ways here.
Yeah.
Okay. First of all, you haven't seen Connor McDavid play for Canada for this specific reason on an international, in a grand, big international stage like this. Okay. That's number one. The players haven't been in these matchups before. Now I want you to think, you mentioned the US very specifically.
Yeah.
Now I want you to think back to the Canada Cup or the World Cup or the Olympics or anything else. You got to remember, Wayne Gretzky and Mario Lemieux were teammates, Joe. Teammates. When they played Russia in the Rendezvous, when they played in the Canada Cup, the two greatest players of all time were the 1A center and the 1AA center. Okay? Do you know how fucking unfair that is?
I know.
But do you know what we have now? The two best players in the NHL are Connor McDavid and Austin Matthews. Mm-hmm. Austin Matthews is an American. Mm-hmm. So now all of a sudden, think about how great those games would have been in the Canada Cup or the Rendezvous or anything else if it was Lemieux on one team and Gretzky on another. Mm-hmm. That would be, quite frankly, amazing. And that is what we have the equivalent of now, from a Jack Eichel to a Connor Hellebuyck to the Kachucks that you mentioned, to now Slavin that you're talking about in a different light. The American team is every bit as good, if not better, when healthy than the Canadian team. Mm-hmm. And then that gets us to politics, and that gets us to the most disappointing part of last night. To evoke 1980 in the way that they did.
Yeah.
Again, I'm going to take politics out of 1980 for those of you who weren't alive or don't remember it. Mm-hmm. Okay. And I was only 4, but I do remember it.
I was 1.
So. Okay. I do remember. I remember because of like last night here. The only way that they're similar. The only time in my life growing up the hockey was ever even thought about was 1980 and then 1984 in the Olympics. It was like, oh man, we got hockey again.
Oh,
and it was like this big disappointment. But we watched those preliminary games and watched the US get waxed in 84. Okay.
Yeah.
But I want you to take politics out of this completely. And that's where the difference is. This US team is not a bunch of ragtag college players thrown together with Herb Brooks skating them until they throw up.
Yeah.
Playing against, keep in mind, Not only was Russia a professional team, they were the greatest professional team of all time.
Yes.
Of all time. Completely and total. Whatever you think we dominate in USA basketball and Olympic basketball, multiply it by 5 for what Russia had done in hockey.
Yeah.
Okay? So it's insulting to evoke 1980 to this US group. You are every bit as good as Canada.
Yes.
And unlike the speech from Herb Brooks, who got his guys to convince themselves for one night, you could be as good as Russia for one night. That is not what we had. So it's disappointing. And it's a way that history gets rewritten, and it's wrong.
Yeah.
It's just flat out wrong. And again, I'm leaving all of the politics out of it.
Oh, I'll put
all
it in
of
there.
them.
I'll put it in there. If anything, I mean, I saw the jokes online.
Right.
If anything, it's like, hey guys, given how things are going and how we're talking about Canada, we're Russia. Okay.
Yeah, we're the bad guys. We're the ones wearing the black hats.
We're the baddies. Okay.
But
you've got mail.
But it was straight up insulting to this U.S. group to compare them to 1980.
All right, I was listening to Wyshynski on the drop, and they were like lauding ESPN and their features and all this other stuff. It's like, guys, no, guys, that's like not what that was in 80. That was not what this is about. And it's like I'm with you. It's very much insulting. All right, to the mailbag from Cameron. What's up, guys? I was able to take the State UNC game in at the Smith Center on Wednesday. Got in early enough to sit mid-court, pick attached. True story. I saw it. Nice seats. Really appreciated UNC allowing that. I loved it. Anyway, before the game starts, the in-game PA announcer is talking to the crowd and said, get ready for one of the greatest rivalries in college basketball. Shortly thereafter, I hear a lady behind me get kind of upset and say, no, this isn't a rivalry. No. I didn't, but I thought about turning around and saying, you're right. It's a blood feud, just to see the reaction. Missed opportunity. Try to make that a thing, Joe. Try to take that statement. Like
Please.
you say, blood feud.
Blood feud. Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe that becomes a hat in the future for the OG hat vault.
With them holding hands.
Yes.
Blood embracing each other.
That might
blood feud.
That might be the next hat. I don't know.
Blood feud. Forever grateful.
I don't know what to do with the forever grateful thing, man. I really don't.
Curse or don't.
I
think we got to focus our efforts on curse or don't.
Curse or don't for the OG Sports Phone. Okay. Yeah. I can see that. This is from David. These are all kind of combined with what happened on Wednesday with the student sections and everything else.
I was going to say, by the way, you thought I was kidding when I said for that Duke game coming up at the Smith Center, they should do open seating.
Yeah, they should do that.
They should.
From David, student attendance following a snow day showed exactly why UNC should leave the Smith Center exactly where it is. And he provided a link to a Daily Tar Heel column from one of the students who, got to experience this in the same way that people got to experience it back in 2000. And I get the sentiment. And this is the thing that bothers me to a certain extent. You and I usually have some level of disagreement with how do you get young people to appreciate sports? Okay.
Don't start the games at 10 o'clock.
You hammer the game time starts. Fine. But what I would say, the real issue is the barrier of entry to go take somebody to a game and truly get to experience why you like sports. And you see this with the students. The students get pushed out because you cannot make money off the students.
Sure.
It's that simple.
Well, I mean, you do, but
not at the level of what you do with the Rams Club to get those seats. Same with the Iron Dukes, right? All that kind of stuff. So
I apologize to my Rams Club friends, by the way.
They called them like the Iron Rams.
They got mad at me.
They should be mad at you for that.
That was my second beer. Come on.
They should be mad at you for calling the Iron Rams or whatever.
But I do think like maybe something with maybe it was Butch had something with like the wait staff. Like when they were doing their workouts. Maybe even Roy had it.
Maybe. I don't know.
Something was in my brain about the Iron Rams.
Maybe. But again, what I get back to is barrier for entry to take kids to sporting events is way too high right now. I mean, I got a text from a friend yesterday who sent me a screen grab of Ticketmaster to go to a Canes Sabres game next week. Lower level, $4,000.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, when the fees and I said, hey, look, man.
To get in.
Right. That's just to get in. I said, look, dude, I'm telling you right now, resale at this far out is a scam. Like they're trying to maximize the most they can. So why don't you wait until next week, maybe the day of, to see where the tickets are at? It's not like the Sabres are any good, but it is what it is. And I said, or you could just sit with the pores in the upper deck.
It's actually better in hockey.
And I
It's
agree.
a more comfortable seat.
You're paying $60 a pop as opposed to whatever the fees were downstairs.
Still not cheap,
but it's still not cheap.
Yeah.
But again, think about that. It's going to cost you $1,000 just to get in? Nah. Like, that's a day at Disney, y'all. I'm being serious.
Did you see Jordan Cornette's tweet? You're not really on Twitter anymore.
Yeah.
He was like, he's at Disney with his family.
I know. I saw him on Instagram he was
said,
stuck on It's a Small World.
He said if the adults at Disney with no children are a menace to society. And
so he's talking about my brother and my sister-in-law?
And you.
No, what are you talking about? I go with the kids. Mostly.
Stop.
Mostly.
Stop.
So this continues, by the way. We got another. This is from Ken with feedback advice. What would you give students who may have to trek to Carolina North to watch a basketball game? And do you think making it harder to access the games will lead to scenes like those at PNC, aka Lenovo, with sparse attendance? I feel for the students and their experience. They are the university's future donors. This happened. I mean, you've lost a whole generation of state kids given how things play out at Lenovo Center and how difficult it is to get out there. So having it on campus is crucial to having students show up and be part of that experience. You move it out that way because of all the things that you want, the retail and all this other stuff, activations and everything else. You do lose an element of that. Simple as that.
Yeah, I mean, the truth though is traffic is always going to be more from your fans who aren't the students not on campus, and the headaches that it's caused by going to the middle of campus. That's the real reason they left Reynolds.
Yeah.
You can retcon that decision all you want, but it really was about getting in and out of campus.
It's pain in the ass.
It was.
Yeah.
And so the thing I go back to is Bubba Cunningham saying to me after a football game, or before a football game over at Carter Finley, we don't have this. We need something. I'm super jealous of this.
Yeah.
And the way that Carolina basketball has left money on the table for the last, give them the first 20 years of the Smith Center, right? Because in 86, we didn't know. But by 06, it was pretty apparent. Even Orlando was tearing down the same building they built in 86 for the Magic.
Did you see where...
Same with Charlotte, right?
You see where the Texans want to tear down?
I sent you that.
Yeah. And it's
I love all built it.
What are you talking about? And what I thought was funny, I was like, are you going to leave that one up too? Like the Astrodome? Now, the Astrodome is kind of like a historic building. You can't get rid of the Astrodome, man.
But you can.
I know you can, but you got to do something with the Astrodome.
They knocked Yankee Stadium down. They can knock the Astrodome down.
I guess. I have an affinity for the Astrodome.
Put a Billie Jean King statue out there. We'll be fine.
And they'll be fine in that situation. But
Move it along.
I just think it would be hilarious if they leave 3 buildings now in that little area.
Yeah,
you have a rodeo, you have another rodeo, and then you can do a bigger rodeo.
Sure.
Why not, right?
Sure. No, the problem for Carolina is they're leaving money on the table. And specifically for Carolina, they have the doctors, the lawyers, the plumbers, you name it, they've got it.
Yeah.
So by not having those luxury amenities, they've been leaving money on the table. And now that you don't have a Hall of Fame coach, it's the kind of money that you kind of sort of need.
Yeah, but here's my question. How can Duke get away with this? And Cameron?
They charge even more for those.
You make it a boutique experience.
Right.
That's what it comes down to.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if you can do that at NC State.
No.
But you can certainly do that with Carolina. You can make it a boutique experience. You could rip off what they do at Cameron.
You don't have to. What they do at Virginia is the best of all worlds. And that's what Carolina
not a big
needs
building.
to get to.
It's not a big building.
Right.
John Paul Jones Arena. By the way, Maryland's in the same boat. When they moved from Cole Fieldhouse. It's kind of similar. Those are buildings that were specifically made for basketball.
Yes.
In a tighter space. So Little John's kind of in the same boat with the renovations, right? So
that implies somebody cares about Clemson basketball.
But nobody cares about Clemson basketball. You're right about that, which gets, again, back to my original point about, Duke can get away with this with Cameron. Why don't you do something similar for UNC where you create a lower section that's specifically for students and then the luxury amenities, much like Cameron, are above all that stuff. So it's not like you really have a bad seat in the house at Cameron.
What does Cameron really sell?
The experience.
No, I'm saying how many tickets do they actually have to sell?
Like five, 6.
Okay.
Yeah.
Carolina, you're talking about right now, the Dean Dome probably selling, 12, 13, 14.
Yeah.
So
reduce it.
Yeah.
Reduce it.
No, but there's different ways to reduce it. You reduce it by adding the amenities, adding those spaces that you're getting now, the Wachovia, or it's not even called that anymore, right?
Yeah.
You're getting the banker who used to run Wachovia is the one who is a Carolina guy.
Yeah.
You're getting the Grady White guy who gave you all that money. He's got it. You know, you got the Jordan brand. You got the plumber who was Kenny Smith's college roommate. You got all these things.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of place that State can't do that. Clemson can't do that. A lot of these schools can't do that.
UNC can.
UNC can.
Yeah.
And they've been leaving money on the table. And unfortunately, the better answer for them is to improve traffic to the arena rather than keep it where it is.
All right. The rest of the way is going to be for OG fan subscribers, for the paid subscribers. You can head on over to ogtrianglemedia.com right now to sign up for it. I would also suggest in the little podcast description, you get in on the OG hat vault. The vault is open right now for the Dead Conference hats, but the vault will close like a Disney adult menace on February 25th. Once it's gone, it's going into the back in the vault. We don't know when it's ever going to come back. I'm just saying. So head on over to ogtrianglemedia.com to sign up for OG fans and click on the link in the podcast summary to get those hats in the OG hat vault.